Hey guys, today we're doing something a little bit different. We are talking about binge consumption of media. You know, that thing that we all do. I'm talking binge watching of streaming services, ending up in YouTube video, mindless rabbit holes, or even just scrolling for what you thought was going to be 5 minutes and it ends up being 2 hours. Now I know that there are already probably 1,000 videos about this concept online, but it's a trap that no matter how hard we try to get out of because of our society and the culture we live in, I certainly keep falling back into it, don't know about you guys. So I figured, why not be your motivator for the week? I personally have recently had a wake-up call in regards to this topic, so I feel especially passionate about it. And yes, I know this is a change from my regular MBTI sketches, but this has been on my mind recently, and naturally because of who I am as a person, I have to talk about it. In this video, I'm going to hit you with some hard facts about binge watching and how it might not be good for you. And those facts might depress you a little bit, but I really encourage you to stay to the end of the video because I promise you there will be a redemptive / hopeful arc. So please stay tuned to the end. First of all, I should make the necessary disclaimer that I don't believe all content that you consume is bad, nor do I believe that content in moderation is inherently problematic. There are real benefits that come from the content that we consume. Educating ourselves, fueling our imagination, opening our minds to other perspectives, relaxing, having a laugh, bonding with family and friends, experiencing some sort of thrill, excitement, emotion. The list goes on and on, so I'm not denying that there are perks to the content that we consume. It is the level at which we are consuming it, both individually and as a society, that is personally a little bit worrying to me. And I'll tell you why. And yes, rip, I am aware of the irony of me posting YouTube content for you to binge. A study in 2016 linked in the description below mentioned that in the US, at least 88% of millennials and Gen Zers had binge watched a TV series at some point. That was in 2016. 88%. Netflix recorded in 2017 that on January 7th of that year, users streamed a record-breaking 350 million hours of video on the platform. That was Netflix alone in a single day, and that was before the soul-crushing period of our lives known as the pandemic. The average watch time of users has increased. It went from 140 million hours of content per day in 2017 to 204 million hours per day in 2023. Why has this happened? I believe it's because there are many reasons, most of which I'm going to get into in this video, is because we as humans have never had this much access to so much content out there on the internet, and as a result, it is untapped, unmonitored. There are so many studies that indicate the long-term effects that binge watching can have on your health. And worse, the powers that be don't care about the long-term effects that this can have on your physical and mental health. No, they encourage it because they are making a boatload of money. Netflix made $31.6 billion in 2022. Pretty safe to say that the motives might be ulterior here. But why does this work so well on us? Well, I believe it's because they are taking advantage of how susceptible we as humans are to addiction, how drained we are in general because of hustle culture, which makes us want to escape through content, and the subconscious neural pathways that are formed through extended access to things that provide dopamine hits for us, which we'll get into in a second. So you can see how media has this ability to trap you, and we know that addiction traps you. It traps you by appealing to an unmet need of yours. Social media appeals to your desire for validation that you might not be getting elsewhere. Netflix and other streaming services and YouTube content videos, all that kind of thing, appeals to many of your unmet needs, one of which is your desire to finish things, to know what happens in the next episode. And instead of having to wait 7 whole days for the next episode, like I did with McLeod's Daughters, Wednesdays are my favorite days, they give you everything all at once, which of course we love, but this can cause the problem. They deliberately leave all of their episodes on cliffhangers so that you want to watch the next one. They make all of the episodes available to you of any given season with the intention of making you want to stream for 10 hours in a row. Or even if you don't want to stream, you end up doing it anyway. And then the stimulation in our brain drops when we see the end credits roll, and we liked that feeling when we were watching the show, so we want to watch another one. Everything is available to us at once at any given time, and so there is no need to practice moderation or self-discipline. So here are the main reasons why I think that binge watching and mass content consumption could be bad, in fact are bad for you, really. And these are real consequences that I have experienced personally in my life. I'm going to go on to share some anecdotes with you about that. And what I'm about to say is backed up by studies as well, all of which are available in the description of this video. So I'm going to go through these reasons in detail. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. And then at the end, stay tuned because I'm going to have a challenge for you that I hope we can all do together. So let's get into the reasons. Number 1, it kills your creativity. Hundreds of years ago, when we didn't have access to all of the other humans, well, most of the other humans on the planet through the internet, your specific gifts and talents were appreciated by your community. The fact that you were maybe the most skilled seamstress in your province, in your suburb, in your community actually meant something. But these days, there is just something about seeing 10,000 other people online doing the same thing as you, but seemingly doing it better than you, that just kills your desire to try. Having access to 1,000 other accounts, be it on Instagram, Pinterest, and the like, of other sewing accounts, just to continue the seamstress example, on which you see people creating these beautiful garments, works of art, or even just seeing that other seamstresses are making the time to do sewing every single day when maybe you don't have the time to do that. That can be really soul-crushing. Why would you want to try when you're constantly reminded that not only are people doing better than you all the time, but that you have so far to go? Because I mean, there's always ways we can improve, which is something that we know inherently, but seeing it every day tangibly on accounts of other people who are doing better than you can just really put you down. And don't get me wrong, that's not to say that there isn't a lot of discipline that's required to get good at something when you aren't inspired. There's hard work that's involved in everything, and that often requires choosing to sew, choosing to do the thing even when you don't feel like it, or even if there are people around you who seemingly do it better than you. Seeing people who are succeeding in your area, in fact, might even motivate you when you see it occasionally. But when you're seeing it 24/7, it just means that your bad days are so much worse, and even though you can still choose with your will and discipline to get up and sew, it doesn't change the fact that this spark of creativity that hits at random times can just be killed in a second by the overexposure to content, and it can really be overwhelming. Creativity is a magical thing, truly. It inspires, it motivates. But seeing people succeed every day in ways that you haven't, maybe because they have more time than you, better equipment than you, connections that you don't, or maybe you have a really cool idea out of nowhere and you're really excited to execute it, but then you go online and see that 100 other people have actually done it already, and then that just kills your inspiration. There's a reason why we as humans, we're not designed to have access to all other humans at all times. As creatives, believing that our gifts are special and that we have something unique to say and important to say is a huge factor that keeps inspiration going. Not to mention our gifts and talents being received and celebrated by the community is also a huge part of the creative journey, because gifts are given to us so that we can go out and use them, connect with people with them, inspire others, help others. It's the reason why we have all different gifts. But with thousands of other artists out there to whom you have access at all times, it's hard to get even your friends to look at your products, let alone the random strangers on the internet. So I feel to some degree, we at large, our society at large, has lost the appreciation for artisanal creation, the awe that comes from witnessing the creation of real beauty in the art of our neighbors, friends, and other people around us who have different gifts from ours. Routine content consumption encourages comparison, and comparison can kill creativity. I'm not saying that all these things aren't good in moderation. In fact, as I said before, I think comparison can be really helpful in motivating yourself to try harder. But it's the untapped access to content creation at all given times of the day, seeing people who are better than you in your craft, and all the aforementioned reasons that can be really detrimental to that creative spark that hits at random points of the day and that creates good and meaningful art. And this is not just because of comparison to other creators, it's also because of reason number 2, which is it kills your self-respect. As much as you are enjoying the TV show or the YouTube video or whatever it is that you are binging, you are also somewhat simultaneously meta-aware of the fact that you are procrastinating, that you're going to feel gross later, and that you're not reaching your full potential of the day. We all know that feeling of low-key self-loathing when we're really tired and we have to wake up for work tomorrow, but we just can't resist clicking play on the next episode. Self-respect occurs when we set goals, boundaries, values for ourselves, and when our lives that we live are in accordance with those. Binge watching allows hours, days, and even weeks of time where we don't develop that time to things like developing our character, ticking off the daily tasks that we set ourselves, and doing things that are going to help us achieve our goals in the long term. Of course, it is important to extend grace to yourself when you just don't have the energy to do those things on some days. My fiance and I have recently been planning our wedding, and we have a lot of work to do, and every week we have certain targets that we want to hit. But when the workday is especially long, we sometimes just order a pizza, have some beer, chuck on a few episodes of Friends or Seinfeld, say goodnight early, and in the entire time we've done nothing for our wedding planning. So one of those days here and there is of course fair enough, and it's necessary sometimes to reset and to relax. But spending days in a row, which can lead to entire weeks of us not hitting those goals that we set for ourselves, even those goals that are just as small as doing the laundry or making dinner, and I know those goals can actually seem big a lot of the time, that can take a huge toll on our self-respect. Hyperconsumption of content over a period of of time can mean that we go from really believing in ourselves to being disappointed in ourselves to not respecting ourselves. And then we get stuck in a pit that is much harder to come out of than it would have been if we'd just not watched those extra couple of episodes a couple of weeks ago, which led into days upon days upon days of doing that. I've experienced this, you've experienced this, we've all experienced this. Maybe some of you haven't experienced this, in which case, fantastic. Let us know in the comments. Fortunately, there are ways to get your self-respect back, and the self-respect hit doesn't have to actually be that deep. Ways to do this might include setting new goals and tasks. They might be even smaller than before, and choosing, with your will, to do them. Wanting to hit snooze on your alarm, but choosing not to. Wanting to watch Netflix or some other streaming service, but instead choosing to go for a walk. Ticking those boxes every day, especially when you've got those goals that you set out for yourself, is a sure way to get your self-respect back, because you are at the very least sticking to the promises that you made to yourself. And that is respecting yourself. Reason number 3, it is ruining our brains. I'm sure we all know of dopamine. It is a neurotransmitter, a chemical that sends signals between nerves in the body. It gives your brain a natural high, and over time, with continued input from that one source giving you the high, your brain will tell you to continue engaging with that source, and you will get to a point where you can't control that as much. This is how addiction happens. The neural pathways and chemicals at work here are the same that are at work in any other form of addiction. Drugs, alcohol, pornography, you name it. The saddest thing about this, and this is a real thing that I have experienced, and it was a very low point of my life, is that when you have dopamine hits from one particular source and you continue the input of that source and therefore get addicted to the dopamine hits from that source, normal stuff in your life just isn't as exciting as it once was. TV shows, which are specifically designed to give you hard and fast levels of thrills, excitement, shock, and a plethora of different emotions on a higher level than you would normally experience them in your day-to-day life, provide a hard and fast hit of dopamine to the brain. But continued watching of these shows increases the threshold for that kind of pleasure, meaning that over time you will need to watch more and experience even higher highs to experience the same high. This is how the snowball effect starts. A reliance on a singular source, such as a TV show or whatever, for your dopamine hits also means that your body is less capable of producing dopamine naturally. The natural consequence of this, when you're having such high highs and you need to rely on those highs for the dopamine, but they need to keep getting higher and more extreme in order to continue feeling the same level of high, is that you have deeper emotional lows when you are not consuming the content or sober. So like all things that are addictive, it provides an immediate gratification, but it does not have your long-term interests in mind. It's the same thing that happens with phone notifications. Have you ever noticed that you're in a social situation and yet you can't help but look at your phone continuously even though there are real humans in front of you? That's because your reliance on the dopamine hit that you get from your phone, upon which we have all probably built some kind of dependence thanks to an extended use of our phones, has made your brain receive less pleasure from being in situations that would usually give us a great deal of pleasure and joy, such as being with our friends. Yes, this is a real thing that is probably affecting most of us. Thankfully, all neural pathways can be rewired, but it requires discipline and continuously choosing the good option, which strengthens our will. More on that later. Reason number 4, it is a form of escapism. Again, in moderation, this is fine. It's really nice to get out of your head occasionally to have a laugh, relax, or even just focus on someone else's problems for a while, like the characters in a TV show. But relying on escapism will naturally lower your appreciation for your regular life. Suddenly a TV show that you used to just think of as a relaxing element of day becomes the thing that you can't stop thinking about throughout your day, and the thing that you're continuously looking forward to at the end of your day. You might spend your work hours suddenly watching the clock and thinking about when you can go home to continue that series that you're pretty much addicted to. I know it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but I'm really not. This has happened to me. Let me know in the comments if it's happened to you. The result is that the thousands of little micro opportunities that are presented to you to become a good person, opportunities to connect with people, to eat well, to exercise, to think about something different, to generate new ideas, etc., are opportunities missed because you're functioning on autopilot. Not only that, but the amalgamation of the aforementioned reasons, your creativity being lower, the fact that your self-respect is low, the fact that the lack of activity in your brain has dulled your connection to the real world, means that your ability to enjoy real life has also been diminished. The long-term effects of this is that you're probably not reaching your potential in all areas of your life. So when this has taken effect, of course, it's very natural and normal that we would want to escape into someone else's life. Binge consumption allows you to forget about your life, forget about your problems, and enter someone else's life. It makes your current experience much more exciting. Perhaps on some level you know that this is bad for you, but you choose not to acknowledge it in the moment because you've proven to yourself that you cannot actually meet your goals. You can't meet expectations and boundaries for yourself, and it's much easier to escape than face that harsh reality. These are all just hypotheticals. There's also the added factor of what you're watching on TV is probably not indicative or accurate of how reality actually is either. The more fictional TV shows you watch, the further and further you draw away from actual human experience and reality. Most of the stuff online is dramatized, exaggerated, unrealistic, and it is done with the very purpose of helping you to escape from your regular life. But with heightened consumption, our natural understanding of what's real, what's important, morality, truth, health, and what defines the human experience starts to fade. So perhaps the saddest thing about the escapism element of this is that while you are escaping the bad elements of your life, you're also escaping the wonderful things about life. Which brings me to point number 5. It dulls the human experience. The human experience is meant to be one of a variety of different emotions and lessons that we learn from our own lived experience. Not someone else's, though we can learn from other people, of course. I hope that you're learning something from this video. I know there are a lot of introverts watching this video, so I'm not going to make the claim that you should be out in the world with people 100% of the time. But there are numerous studies that indicate that human brains are happier and function better when balanced between human experiences, particularly being out in the sun and in nature. It is well proven in psychological and neurological studies that even just 30 minutes of exercise a day can have an overwhelmingly positive effect on your brain, lessening your likelihood of developing depression and other cabin fever symptoms. The truth is that we need to be feeding all areas of our brain in order to keep our brains healthy. And it has been proven that our brain responds well to physical activity and sensory activities in general in a positive way. Studies have even found numerous connections between high levels of screen usage and diabetes, heart disease, attention span, obesity, fertility, lifespan, and chronic sleep debt. In fact, one of the videos that I'll link below says that in 2017, Reed Hastings, who is the CEO of Netflix, said that Netflix's biggest competitor is sleep. Does that sound like someone with your best interests in mind? A study done by the University of Toledo in Ohio, US, found that people who identified themselves as binge watchers experienced higher amounts of anxiety, depression, and stress in their regular day-to-day lives. But don't worry, because you don't actually have to be physically outside to choose an activity that is better for your brain than binge watching is. For instance, it's been proven that binge reading novels is actually good for your brain, as it can increase your attention span, broaden your imagination, and even increase your IQ. There are even studies that report that reading novels can help prevent cognitive decline in old age. Reading can increase your capacity for empathy, build your vocabulary, improve your memory, reduce stress, alleviate symptoms of depression, and can help to wind your brain down before you go to sleep every night. Similar effects can result from doing daily maths problems, sudokus, crosswords, and similarly brain-stimulating exercises. So in choosing to binge watch TV shows, you might actually be avoiding opportunities to learn and grow. In fact, these studies show that with continued binging, you might actually be stunting your growth in many ways. And the final reason, and the one that I've experienced the tangible consequences of in my life personally, recently, it can kill your soul. Let me tell you a quick anecdote. Recently, about a month ago, well, actually for a lot of months during this year, I have been consuming a lot of social commentary videos on YouTube. I find that stuff fascinating, but also true crime documentaries, mostly podcasts. When I discovered true crime podcasts, it was game over for me. Suddenly I was listening to them all the time when I was getting ready, even between filming videos, when I was driving to all of my commitments, hours at a time. As someone who has an interest in psychology and personality and relationships, true crime is deeply fascinating to me. I ended up binging it all of the time. It was like any silence in my day, I couldn't let just be silence. I had to be filling it with true crime because I had to know what was going to happen next. I started to notice that it was taking an effect on my life because I was choosing it over doing good things like working or going for walks or cooking. I was even staying up late some nights into the small hours of the morning watching and listening to these things because I just found them so fascinating. But then over time, it affected me so negatively because social commentaries about certain subjects and true crime in particular can just alert you to how dark humanity can be, how dark the world can be. And when you're listening to it all the time, it starts to become the main thing that you contemplate. And what we think about really affects our mood. And so I was starting to have a really low mood most of the time. My experience was dulled. I wasn't able to show up for the people in my life the way that I needed to be. My energy meter was so not full. I was completing 50% less of the work that I usually complete every single week. I was having nightmares every other day. And because I was having nightmares, I would wake up in the morning, I would feel low on sleep, and so I would sleep in until like 10 a.m. Then I would feel really bad about myself for the rest of the day. So there was that snowball effect of me having been pseudo-addicted to this thing, just compulsively listening to it, even though I knew that it had this effect on me. And yet I couldn't stop. I know that I'm verging on addicted to something when I know it's bad for me and I want to stop, but I can't help but do it anyway. That's when you know the thing controls you, you don't control it. I had always known that humanity had infinite potential for evil and that the world was really dark, but I hadn't had such tangible examples of it as I did in the true crime documentaries and podcasts that I was listening to. And so it just plunged me into a really deep negative pit. And so finally on the 17th of August, I snapped. It was too much. I broke down crying and I was like, something needs to change in my life. I unpacked it with my sister and a few close friends and I decided I needed to just cull that material completely from my life. Yes, it was very interesting, but it was contributing in such a negative way to my overall life experience and the person that I was for the people I loved. For myself, my self-respect was at a very low point. You can probably even pinpoint the point in my content creation where I wasn't performing as well as I usually would. So since the 17th of August, I have not listened to any true crime and I have not had a single nightmare. It's been fantastic. And so I'm so glad I listened to my body and my mind and my heart when I got to that breaking point and broke down and cried and said, enough is enough. I know this is interesting, but I have the power to control my consumption of it. So all this to say, not only did that prove what I was saying about all the points I mentioned earlier, but content can be really dark these days. Like really dark. I'm starting to, well, not starting to believe, I've believed for a very long time that being chronically online for our generation has desensitized us to basic, good human emotions and experience, empathy being the main one. It's not our fault individually per se. How were we meant to handle this sudden influx in technology that we'd never experienced before as a society? It has never happened in the history of humanity ever that we had this much access. We have a lot of accents, but I mean access to content. The ever-present access to every kind of story with every kind of emotion on the daily. I mean, every single day you get stories of war, despair, death, natural disaster, sports, finance, access to TV shows that cover all of these topics as well. It's too much to see in one day. Our bodies and our emotions can't handle feeling that plethora of emotions all in one day. So we become desensitized to it. We subconsciously choose not to feel instead. And this is a natural consequence of where we find ourselves as a society. But I've personally seen some real problems with the lack of empathy in some YouTube comment sections, in some YouTube commentary videos, in beefs that happen between people online that they need to air out for others to see. I sometimes feel that true crime content can focus so much on trying to engage the listener rather than encourage empathy for the victims of the crimes in question. And that's a real problem. Empathy is so important to the human experience, so important for our society. I know there are certain people who feel lower degrees of empathy. That's fair enough, but it is important to be or act empathic in our society. Even if you don't feel empathy, you can still act with virtue and kindness and compassion and charity. But everything, even real, true and tragic stories that happen to people these days, is content now. To thrill us, to shock us, to give us that good old dopamine hit that makes us keep coming back. And the really scary thing is about this is that it's going to need to keep getting even more extreme in order to hold our attention. You need only look at general responses from audiences online to current topical issues to see that we might be losing our humanity at large. I mean, I was shocked at the lack of empathy that people had for those who died on the Titan OceanGate submarine earlier this year, purely because they were billionaires on board, as if they aren't still humans who would have gone through a horrifying, terrifying experience on board that submarine. And one that still gets me is the Minecraft YouTuber Dream, when he revealed his face for the first time. This is someone who had been creating content anonymously since 2014, and it got to a point where people were like, show your face, show us your face. And he decided one day to show his face to his audience who loved him, but because they had idealized him to look a type of way, when he revealed his face, everyone was disappointed even though he was by no means an unattractive person. And he got so much hate in the comments. There was literally a hashtag called "He's Ugly" trending on Twitter. In his video, you can see the level of vulnerability that it takes for him to reveal his face. And he's sitting there and you can see he's nervous and he's saying like, I don't know what to do guys now, but like I'm optimistic. Maybe I'll show you my face more in future videos. You know, he's doing it for the love of his content, for the love of his audience, and so that he can have a greater control of his image and be a regular Joe, a regular guy who they can relate to a little bit more. And because he did not look a type of way, his audience, the people who had been subscribed to him for years, actually fired hateful upon hateful comments at him for no other reason than he did not look the way that they had thought. I thought that was so unkind. As a content creator myself, I know the vulnerability it takes to come out and do something that's different from the normal content that you would create. Even putting information about yourself online as a content creator can be so difficult because you know that people have idealized you to be a type of way. And I was just shocked, and I honestly felt shame for how they treated this poor guy. And then after that, his views declined. He hasn't revealed his face online ever since. His content creation has also declined. And he released a really sad video where he basically said like, I wish I never released the video. I should always be wearing a mask now. Okay, I'll wear a mask. I'm gonna delete that video. I'm gonna pretend that I never revealed my face. All because he just revealed his face. I can't believe it. When I saw that, that's just one of the things that is like ground my gears online recently and just pointed to the lack of empathy at large in our society. But when I saw that one in particular, I was like, this is a truly scary place to be in humanity. And it's not just that. Anytime there's a serious issue within 24 hours, well, most of the time, there are memes about it and TikToks about it. TikTok trends these days are mostly dangerous, unkind. I'm getting fired up now. Instagram filters are another one. They pretty much breed insecurity. Sites like OnlyFans have only encouraged humans to view other humans as objects rather than people. Content these days at large is so short form that many people don't even listen to anyone that has something actually important to say because it takes time and nuance to build up a good argument. But our attention spans and our focus levels are so low now that we simply don't care for anything that doesn't grab our attention within the first 2 seconds. As a result, education is falling, people are losing the ability to be able to think for themselves, and they are certainly losing the ability to formulate nuanced arguments to things and to see other people's perspectives, which is kind of ironic because the internet provides, with the internet we have more access to other people's opinions than ever. I could go on, but I'm going to stop because I'm getting heated and I don't want to lose sight of what I'm talking about here. I know we all want to stay relevant by keeping up to date with what's hot in the culture right now, and a lot of the time that involves TV shows. I understand, I have empathy for that. You want to be able to understand the in-jokes that your friends make about The Office. Relatable, although I don't because I haven't watched The Office. You want to be able to share around clips and memes and contribute to those conversations. That's a very human thing, wanting to connect. But perhaps ask yourself, when was the last time you had a truly meaningful conversation about something you saw on TV? When was the last time you had a challenging conversation in general? How often are you encouraged to grow in your interactions with other people? Are there opportunities you're missing? How often do you step outside your own brain and into the shoes of the other person and try to empathize with them or understand their perspective and open your mind to their experience? The human brain is capable of such great things, but it is our choice to elevate it. I sound like a cringe self-help motivational video. I feel like I need to put that like documentary music behind what I'm saying. I think it's quite clear that after a while we sort of become the content that we consume. The content ends up consuming us, and the internet can be a real bubble. As I said, the world can be a really dark place, and these days it kind of just seems to me that people are obsessed with talking about the small things that don't really matter. One thing that I've noticed these days is that people online, commentary videos, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, people just seem to be obsessed with judging people. Language can be extremely uncharitable, very unkind. Not enough content creators and people on the internet in general are challenging us to be truly kind, virtuous, empathic individuals. Those are the kinds of things that truly enrich the human experience. We are born for connection with others. But most of us these days are unfortunately now just happy to sit behind our computer screens and let everyone else do the heavy lifting for us. But this leads to intellectual laziness and a crippling lack of self-awareness. So I encourage you to ask yourself another question. Is the content that you are consuming on the regular encouraging you to become a better person or a worse person? Because you've seen it happen before where people become worse people through the content they consume, and I promise you, none of us is immune to it. If we are not taking steps forward in the human journey of growth and discovery, we are taking steps backwards. So as I said, streaming services provide instant gratification but do not have your long-term interests at heart. They do not have your health in mind at all, they have money in mind. They're devoted to sharpening the algorithm so that they can encourage you to stay glued to your phone for longer. And I'm not blaming any of us who are individually affected by this. It's very normal to be affected by this. But the truth is that you probably are affected by this, and it's just good to be aware that you are. And then it's your choice what you do with that information. I'm definitely affected by this. Let's look at some statistics to prove it. Netflix is responsible for 8% of all time spent watching videos worldwide. The median age of its users is between 35 and 44 years. And 45% of its revenue came from the US and Canada. Australia is not far behind. And that's just Netflix. So you can see it is very much a problem that affects us. As with all things, content consumption is fine in moderation, but I think that as a society at large, we are well past the point of moderation. Maybe this video has resonated with you to a certain point. Maybe you know that it's a problem in your life, but you have no real desire to change it or believe you don't have the power to change it. And that's fair enough. You have your own free will. But for those of you who had the ick in this video and some intuitive feeling in your soul calling out to you that perhaps you need to change something about your life, then I have a challenge for you. In a second, I'm going to list on the screen 20 different things that you can do to change how screen time and content consumption is affecting your life. I challenge you to choose just 3 of these things and implement them into your daily life every day for the next week. I will do the same, and in a week from today, whenever this video is released, I will film another video revealing how it went for me, my challenges, my experience, what I learned, whether it was hard or not, how it affected my mental health, and other changes I might have noticed. In that video, I will encourage you to post in the comments how the challenge affected you and what you learned from it. I've tried some of the tactics I'm going to mention before, but I'm an extrovert, so I like to do things with people. So I'm hoping that knowing that we're doing this together will help us to keep going on our down days. My hope is to inspire you to realize that you have more power than you think you do when it comes to implementing healthy changes in your life. Because the responsibility to change your life is not your boss's, your spouse's, your parents', your friends'. It is yours. Self-discipline is the key answer to forming a better life. You are made up of more than just your desires. You are a being with emotions and desires, yes, but you are also a being with a soul, an intellect, and a will. A will that can choose to do the hard thing even when your desires tell you otherwise. This is self-discipline. It increases self-respect and it leads to self-mastery. So here are your 20 options for the next 7 days. Remember, I want you to try and choose 3, and you're welcome to choose more if you'd like. Number 1, go for a 30-minute walk every day. Number 2, make yourself a green smoothie every morning. My personal favorite ingredients are 1 apple, a handful of spinach, 3 scoops of yogurt, 4 ice cubes, and a splash of water. Number 3, do not watch Netflix or any other streaming service for the next 5 work days. Choose to do something else on your evenings instead. Number 4, buy a new book and finish it in the next 7 days. Number 5, don't hit snooze on your alarm for the next 7 days. This one is hard, but it is possible. Simply make the choice to get up. Number 6, drink 5 cups of water a day. You can download one of those water drinking reminder apps so that you remember to do so. Those things are really helpful. Number 7, set a timer for 5 minutes every morning and every night for prayer or journaling. Number 8, choose 1 genre of content that consumes your life and do not consume it for the next 7 days. So like I was saying I did with true crime. Number 9, call 3 different friends, yes, call, throughout the week just to ask how they're doing. Number 10, choose 1 social media app that you feel you use way too much and delete it from your phone for 7 days. Number 11, turn autoplay off in your Netflix settings. Number 12, cook 5 meals for yourself this week and make sure that they include vegetables. Number 13, establish a reward system for yourself where you're only allowed to watch content if you've done your daily household tasks or some other tasks that are important. Number 14, read a book every night before you go to sleep instead of scrolling your phone. Number 15, delete all streaming and social media apps from your phone for the next 7 days. Number 16, make the commitment to sit somewhere in complete silence without your phone for 1 hour during the week. A church or a park are great places to do this. 17, write a clear schedule for the next 7 days that limits your screen usage and stick to it. 18, install a timer on your computer that tracks how long you've been doing a task so that you can monitor your time spent on any given streaming service. Toggl, Toggl, is a good app that does this. 19. Do one creative project this week that you've always wanted to do but have lacked the time, energy, or motivation. If you want some extra motivation, you could try out the Alphabet Superset created by Struthless for creatives. It's literally free weekly artistic motivation sent out to you via email, and there's an accompanied podcast. The link to this is in the description of this video. And number 20, do not use the internet at all this week except if it's required during work hours. I'm going to be doing numbers 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 10, 14, 16, and 19, which is a lot, I know, but the reason I'm telling you this is so I can keep myself accountable. So if you're keen to be kept accountable, just like me, write the ones that you're planning on doing in the comments below this video. I know that there are a lot of options there, but I really encourage you to pause the video, have a look through, and choose the options that you think are reasonable for you to do over the next 7 days. Pick just 3 and then make the choice to stick to them every day. You absolutely can make that choice. I believe in you. And know that in a week or so, I will film another video and publish it on one of these days on the screen. And the reason I've listed 2 days is to allow for production time. In that video, you will get to connect with other people in the comments about your shared experience of this challenge. The reason why I'm encouraging you to do this is because I believe that there is so much these days that is keeping us from activating our full potential in this life. And I want you to genuinely see that you are capable of the self-discipline required to change your life slowly into a more fulfilling life for you. Remember that feeling you had as a child and you would get ridiculously excited about simply just going to the park and riding your bicycle? You can get that feeling back about life in general. So that's all that I have for you today, guys. All of the sources that I listed are in the description below. Make sure you do go back if you haven't already and choose 3 things from that list that you think you can do reasonably, and let me know in the comments which ones you've chosen. Feel free to document your journey over the next 7 days in a journal so that you can formulate a comment that you're going to post in this video that I release in a week or so. Thank you so much to my top tier patrons for supporting me, and thank you to all of you for continuously supporting the channel by watching my videos. I'm very much looking forward to reading about your experiences next week. Until then, stay healthy, safe, and self-aware. Bye!